Love podcasts, hate nonsense. The PoliticsJOE podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know what? It's so nice to have some excitement back in the studio.
Well, it wasn't coming from you, was it? So they had to bring the mood up.
They have to bring the energy. Energy crew. PMQs, Ava Santina.
We are so back.
Want to keep it tight?
Can we reverse engineer it today?
Right.
I think we should open with the end.
Right, okay, yeah.
You guys have got to see this.
Yeah?
Here it is.
Given the Prime Minister's desire to strengthen strategic alignment with our European neighbours, will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Can I welcome her to her place? But I'm not going to follow her down that line. But now she is here and safely in her place, perhaps she could tell her new party leader that his latest plan to bet £80 billion of unfunded tax cuts, with no idea how he's going to pay for it, is Liz Truss all over again. Although, considering I think she was a Conservative member when Liz Truss was leader, she probably won't.
So I saw her this morning, actually.
Did you?
I ran into her down on College Green.
You say hello?
I did say hello.
Did she look like a woman who was going to call for a ban on the burqa?
She was off to do some filming with her aide in College Green. I also saw IDS.
Mm.
But I was there I was there to interview Corbyn, of course.
Mm.
She didn't look like she was about to ban the burqa.
This feels like 20-year-old discourse. Feels old.
It does.
A lot of it feels old, actually. The Brexit stuff the other day, it feels like politics from a different era, you know?
Well, even actually, you could argue benefits Britain, which
Yeah.
is what the Conservatives are trying to bring back with the two-child benefit cap, which we'll get onto, actually, because Kemi had a little wink to that earlier. But it's an odd thing to do. And Reform have come out to say that this is not an official Reform policy, banning the burqa.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty out there, aren't you, if they're disavowing what you're saying?
Well, she was sitting next to them, and presumably she had let them know what she was going to ask.
You'd think so.
So maybe they tested the waters and then thought, oh no.
If
It's UKIP.
if the woman in question, beneath the burqa,
Yeah.
is doing so of her own volition, like consenting to wearing it, who are we to tell her what she can and can't wear?
I'm going to go at it from a different angle.
Okay.
Blasphemy law.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which they were pretty upset about. There's a guy who's been fined for burning the Quran. And there's been a lot of argument amongst the right that this is de facto blasphemy law and that we don't police religion. Okay, that you can't really police the burqa. It's also, look, I'm not going to get into the morality or the religious beliefs or why people do and don't wear the burqa. I think it's bizarre to think that to try and ban it because what the subtext of banning the burqa is that we need to see who that is because the sort of person that would wear that or the religion that the sort of person who is subscribed to who's wearing that is a terrorist. That's the...
Well, yeah, she framed it as...
subtext.
Protecting the security of Europe.
Yeah. It's quite like this with the trans debate, really, isn't it?
God, there's so much going on here. We'll come to the trans debate in a second. I agree with you. It's like, oh, okay, so a ban on burning the Quran, you oppose that. Like, your policy position is it's okay to burn the Quran. Or maybe it's not okay to burn the Quran.
Mine's not.
But it shouldn't be illegal. No, I'm obviously not talking to you. I'm talking about Reform. Your position is burning the Quran shouldn't be illegal. But wearing the burqa should be illegal. And I feel like freedom to like free speech / free expression, how you dress is a form of expression. I feel like there's a slight, you could call it attention, cognitive dissonance, or in just plain hypocrisy between these two stated beliefs. The common denominator between them is attacking Islam, isn't it? It's your religion says wear this thing. No, you're not allowed to. We're going to ban it. Your religion says respect the Quran. It's absolutely fine if someone trashes it. It feels to me the common denominator between those things is because it's a mechanism by which they can attack the religion. That's why.
If what we wear is a freedom of expression,
Yeah.
who are you expressing today? A Boston Docker, perhaps? Or
Do you know, when I wear this waistcoat, I get so much grief. Alex Mahon, the chief exec of Channel 4, when she was in here the other day and I interviewed her, I was wearing this. She waited until after the interview to remark upon it. Made some kind of reference that to be honest with you, went over my head, but I assumed it to be insulting, and it was meant to be. And look, no, what am I going for today? I think probably best dressed longbowman at Agincourt. I think nice, tasteful pinstripe to the jerkin. I think that's probably what I'm going for. They probably wouldn't be in a Uniqlo tee, but you know, certainly.
was that a Uniqlo number there?
Underneath
That T-shirt, yeah.
Mais oui.
Oh,
Yeah. But you're not remarking on the white T-shirt. You're remarking on the waistcoat, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. Best dressed longbowman at Agincourt. That's me. That's what I'm channeling to. That's how I'm choosing to express myself. Look, you know, if you really wanted to get into it, you know, do I think we should be teaching women that they should dress, you know, cover themselves up, protect themselves from the prying eyes of men? No, I don't. It's not for me. You know, I'm secular. I'm not a religious person. But equally, if someone wants to dress in that way, who am I to tell them that they can or can't? Like for me, I don't know if Sarah Potchin would describe herself as a feminist. I presume she probably wouldn't. But if she were to, it's like what business does anyone have telling a woman what she can and can't wear? It's not for me to really, you know, as long as, you know, you're not sort of like, it's not public indecency, then what does it matter?
It does get tricky as well, doesn't it? Because I suppose is the conversation the specific covering of the face. Otherwise, we're getting into tricky territory with the nuns. Do you know what I mean?
It's always tricky territory with the nuns.
What are the nuns?
You've got to keep an eye on the nuns. Dangerous people.
Yeah, they don't want to make a habit of it.
That's so stupid. I can't believe I'm laughing at that. Okay. What's your trans angle?
I believe it was going down the route of policing women's bodies.
Yeah.
I suppose that this is all. I haven't actually had a moment to sit with this thought. So, dear listener, please be generous with the nuance that you afford me on this.
Look, I respect you for asking for it. I don't think you're going to get it.
I think that essentially the trans debate is about pigeonholing or defining what a woman can and cannot present as. So, and I think that the gold standard of the very serious gender critical feminist, and that can be a man or a woman commentator, is that a woman must be rather traditional, and you must fit almost a quite 1950s Stepford wife sort of image, right? You can't be, because we've had all this sort of diatribe about, well, it's just someone in a wig, or it's just someone wearing a dress, or it's just someone wearing a pair of heels, or it's just someone wearing a burqa. You know, like essentially you're policing what clothing constitutes a woman. Does that make sense?
Yeah, big time.
Okay.
Yeah, it must make sense.
They'll let me know if it doesn't.
I suspect even if it did, they'd still let you know. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. Really, it's just kind of rogue that a party that proclaims to love free speech as much as it does, you know, why on earth is it an issue for you? Do you not see that there's a hypocrisy there? You know, my position on religion is thus, and it is that if you practice it privately and doing so.
I love that your position on religion is always that. Oh, there's the 1980s argument on homosexuality.
Look, you know, whatever your proclivities are, you know, that's up to you. It's nothing to do. No, look,
let 1,000 blossoms bloom.
It's like this, within the space of a week, we've had 2 Bob Catter references. Yeah. No, like, as long as you're not harming other people, what you choose to believe is your prerogative. The second you start fucking with me, because what you think, then your religious beliefs are on the table. And I believe it is my succulent English right to mock and deride you for believing that there is a higher power. Like I reserve that right. The next step of it, if you think that you should then be able to sort of inform and the opposite of separating the church and state, have like the organization of society be informed by religious belief, that's like another order of magnitude. I have a ginormous problem with that. I'm aware that we're going to get into like moral relativism and realism, and where do you define sort of what do you define your ethics from if you don't have a higher power to call on? And there's paradoxes innate in that.
I'm glad you said that.
Is that what you're going to come back?
I was going to jibe right at you.
Yeah.
I was going to go, well, aren't we all a product of how we grew up? But yeah.
Yeah, but it's such the challenge for like secular humanists, and that's fine. But I am not harmed by you wearing the burqa. Like that's your prerogative.
But that's the subtext of this statement, is that you might be harmed by someone wearing a burqa, right? That's the subtext. Yeah, well, that's what's dangerous about it.
It's the dog whistle element of it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you don't know who's under there.
But this applies to Christianity and it applies to Islam, because in the same way that I do not like when Danny Kruger or Jacob Rees-Mogg stood up in the House to say we should not have abortion because it conflicts with my religious beliefs. We should not have, and abortion actually is a bad term. We should not have, people shouldn't be allowed to access reproductive health care because of my religious beliefs. In the same way, when we had those semi-riots in Birmingham over homosexuality being taught in schools, sorry, tough shit, Pam. Like, tough shit. Unless you're at a faith school, sorry, it's on the curriculum.
Yeah, for sure. It's backwards. Like I'm not going to shy away from people that have like ultra conservative religious beliefs. It's like there are things that we hold dear to ourselves in, or at least claim to hold dear to ourselves in liberal democracy, the rights of individuals and, their protected characteristics. And if you have a problem with gay people, if you have a problem with homosexuality, you can live somewhere else. Like that, it's incompatible. If you don't like it, it's like, well, I'm sorry, it's quite important to us. Deal with it. And that goes for if you're an ultra conservative Catholic, you're an ultra conservative Muslim. It's like, sorry, like it's not harming you. You've got to deal with it, man.
Yeah, and I suppose it's sort of like the EU angle, isn't it? Because you don't want to be obeying a foreign power. Starting to understand.
What was it they used to say about Catholics? It was like popery. It was like dual loyalty. It was like, that was the fear with like the potentially Catholic monarchs. It's like, would they have a sort of higher authority in the Pope that they would be, actually taking orders from? I'm kind of laughing about it now because obviously the medieval ages.
Well, I think we can laugh at Catherine of Aragon now. I don't know.
She's on the table now, right?
She's on the table.
Enough distant.
Jeez.
Gags about Catherine of Aragon on the table. Yeah. It's kind of.
She suffered, didn't she?
It's perplexing.
She was Spanish.
For her to bring it up now is like, why?
Had she been French, do you think less people would have sympathised with Catherine of Aragon?
Throwing back to a politics that I thought we'd left in the past. It's ugly, unnecessary, backwards, concerning.
Boris Johnson screaming. He's like, I said this! I said this!
Yeah, but do you know what? I think I listened to Cummings being interviewed by Liz Bates on Sky News the other day. And he very explicitly ties the 2019 Boris coalition. And obviously he says, I left, Boris becomes the Carrie show and breaks all the promises that we said we were going to fulfill. He very directly draws the line between that electoral coalition and Reform's current electoral coalition. And
oh wow, what a political powerhouse he is.
but you're right to say like that there absolutely is a connection between those two things. And I think in a way, Boris Johnson you could describe as sort of like possibly the cordon sanitaire, as like keeping that ceiling on Farage support to that sort of 15-20%. And when he did everything that he did, that was broken. Obviously, the other way of looking at it is actually that Boris Johnson made a lot of what previously would have been viewed as fringe positions, mainstreamed them, and then cleared the way for Farage to come after him. Depends on the
Yeah, you could say that, because the re-welcoming of Douglas Carswell after he defected to UKIP and then he was brought back as sort of a talking head by CCHQ. And by the way, CCHQ hate it when you say that, but I was the person who took the phone call. I was the producer who took the phone call from CCHQ when they were offering Douglas Carswell. So whenever they deny it, they love to tell me I'm lying. And I'm like, I took the phone call. And then they have to crawl back into their little holes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he was being offered, welcoming that sort of rhetoric back into,
Yeah.
during that election, they really were trying to garner the support of anyone and everyone on the right? So that they were going from like the kind of the soft Brexiteers all the way out to your full-on BNPers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and you're right. It has cleared the way for Big Nige.
Okay. Are we going to continue? Are we going to keep working our way backwards towards?
Let's go Kemi now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been at Boris.
Yeah.
Let's go Kemi.
Okay. Kemi in the Commons.
Here she is.
I asked him if he will keep the 2-child benefit cap, and he doesn't know. It's just chaos and uncertainty. He has no details. He is briefing something and causing a lot of confusion to the people out there. But on that 2-child benefit cap, Mr. Speaker, I'll tell him this. I believe in family, but I also believe in fairness. Yes. On this side of the House, we believe that people on benefits should have to make the same choices on having children as everyone else. Yes. What does the Prime Minister believe?
Mr. Speaker, I believe profoundly in driving down poverty and child poverty. That's why we'll put a strategy in place. But she talks about head spinning. There's only one leader, Mr. Speaker, who's been praised this week by the Russian embassy. And if she carries on echoing Kremlin talking points like this, Reform are going to be sending her an application form for membership.
Mr. Speaker, I asked the Prime Minister what he believes in. He had to look in his folder to find the answer.
I think Kemi's strongest PMQs performance.
I don't pay you to think, Ollie.
What do you pay me to do? Sit there and look pretty. Yeah. Fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
I won't be podcasting anymore. Yeah, I think that's her best PMQs.
Is that because the bar is low, or?
Oh, do not get me wrong. The bar is on the floor.
Okay.
The bar is low. It's hella low. It's Rupert low. It's so low.
Rupert low. Generic and Rupert Lowe had lunch the other week. I think it was Generic.
Low. Yeah, I could see a generic Tory leadership run that brought Rupert Lowe into the fold. I could see that sort of populist, dark right, online right. I could see that. I think they'd fuck with each other. Yeah, I think those boys would get down.
Okay, I'm going to say something.
Please.
I don't think that Generic has an authoritative enough voice to win an election.
Does Starmer?
Yes. That video he did about Lord Helmer. Helmer, sorry. Subject, I could see it hitting. Delivery, bad.
Really?
Yeah.
I disagree. I think he's one of the only people. I think he's probably pretty close to the top of British political figures and their social media game. I think those videos are like outside of their actual content and the arguments that he's making. I think they're very slickly produced. They've got very nice graphics. They've got good pacing. It's like, dare I say it's like an Ollie Dugganmore video essay 5 years ago.
We should bring those back, no?
Could bring them back, yeah. Could bring them back. Some good stuff in that. Going down the ArcelorMittal orbit, doing a piece to camera. That was good.
I think one of the best videos you did was when it was that sort of smoky background when the Conservatives kicked us out of one of their leadership debates. And you did less smoky and you were like, the Tories wouldn't let us in. Let me just expose bits about the Tories. I liked that one. Oh. Okay, back on Kemi.
I can't even remember. Yeah, no, I thought she was really good. I genuinely thought she was really good in that. And there was actually, I don't know if you saw it, there was a point of order at the end, Jesse Norman, who stood up and said, he was asked about the two-child benefit cap, and he started wanging on about the Kremlin and Russia. He's like, he has to answer these questions. I think she seriously wrong-footed him.
Yeah, that is true, isn't it? He does dodge the question. But see, the thing is, if that was a Blair in Starmer's position, we would not be saying that's one of her best prime minister's questions. We would just be flat. We would just be arguing.
So
poor performance.
So this is really good. I interviewed Ian Dale yesterday. Had a bit of a back and forth about Thatcher, and we were talking about Michael Foot. And our politicians of today have a lesser caliber than previously. And he was talking about how Foot used to love being heckled when he was giving a speech, because he would start like going for them, essentially in the same way that like a comedian, right? In to a certain extent enjoys a heckle because they can put them down. And I immediately thought of all those times, security concerns aside, the onstage protesters, like with the glitter on Starmer, the other heckles that he's received, and the kind of his inability.
Glitter on Keir. Excuse me, I thought you were suddenly talking about Gary Glitter. Okay.
No. When that guy around stage and poured glitter over it.
Yeah.
His inability to think, be fast on his feet, and have that come back and have that put down, throw out. Essentially, like it's made for broadcast. It's like put out the focus group line. We're now we're no longer a party of protest. We're a party of power. Extraordinary stuff, rather than like rinsing them. And I thought today, when she asked him the abstract question, right, behind the two-child benefit cap, which is like, essentially, I believe that a person on benefits has should be able to make the same choices about starting a family as anybody else. That is the philosophical question that underpins essentially the two-child benefit cap. Is like, what you're saying is, once you want to have more than two, we're getting in the way, and we're going to start fucking with your decision making. And so she asks him that question, which isn't necessarily, what I would describe as a typical PMQs question, but it's a good one. And he stammers, and he doesn't engage with her subject of it. And her line afterwards, which was like, I asked him what he believes, and he looked in his folder. That was fucking really good.
That was killer, that, actually.
Really, really good. He did think, because I think the next question, which we didn't play then, someone said, one of the Labour MPs shouted at him like, read it out or something, because he said he was going to quote.
Very good.
Yeah, and he was like, yeah, I will actually, which was quite good. But if I was her, I wouldn't even be coming with like notes. Like, I would go in there, no paper, have an idea of what, like, the more unorthodox you can be, the more you can wrong foot, because clearly he's not really capable of engaging in like if you actually approached it like a debate rather than let's workshop the 6 questions, let's get them bang on and fucking go for it. If she went in there and was slightly more unorthodox, targeted like the philosophy behind policy, the what he thinks, didn't ask closed or gotcha questions, and said could the prime minister lay out his moral rationale for X policy? And he then goes, we're putting more money into blah, blah, blah. It's like, he will just look mental.
Yeah. Well, I suppose he did today, didn't he? Because he isn't giving a clear answer on the two-child benefit cap repeatedly. Because when she began, I thought, oh God, she's not doing this again. Their position is very interesting, isn't it? Because it's people on benefits. Sorry, what was the exact line? You just quoted it. People on benefits should have to make the same choices as people who aren't.
Yeah, she was
right?
like, I believe they should be able to make the same choices, does he?
Okay, so that's really interesting, because we're not talking about people on benefits. We're talking about working people, right, who need it. And that's actually an interesting conversation in itself, because the state are subsidizing your ability to live a life of normal expectations. Right? So instead of the state encouraging the private sector, or arguably forcing the private sector into raising wages by raising public sector wages, we're getting into I'm going on a tangent here. if you raise public sector wages, then the private sector will follow suit because they want some of those brains in the private sector, right? Rather than going down that route, you'd rather subsidize people who are working in the private sector. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the alternative.
Which is odd.
Yeah, well, it's either you can create the economic conditions in which real terms wages explode, and therefore there is no longer a need for in-work benefits. Like
in-work benefits is actually mad. It's such a it's totally nonsensical when you think about it, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I don't have the figures in front of me, but it's something like between 30 and 40% of universal credit claimants are in work.
It's 39%.
Hey, there you go. The range was right.
Someone did cue cards last week to practice.
Okay, nice. Yeah, very good. Yeah, like, and again, so you can ask questions like, is it? What does it say about the organisation of the British economy that people in work still require the support of the state to make ends meet? What do you think? What do you think about that? An open-ended question that does, like, if you try and shut him in a corner, it's almost like you give him the license to use his footwork to get around you and come at you from the other side of the ring. Whereas if you ask him an open-ended question and then he comes out with something pre-rehearsed that has nothing to do with it, he'll just look stupid.
I'm having a row on Twitter this morning. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't, no.
For some reason, I decided to join the discourse, which I don't do that often. But there were a lot of people who were arguing that £35,000 in London is totally untenable and is an outrageous salary to pay people. And it took my breath away, because not for 1 minute am I arguing that people shouldn't be paid more and people shouldn't be able to live a decent life and have a decent standard of living and be able to perhaps, I don't know, go out for dinner once a month, like pie in the sky ideas. But it surprised me because that is what people are being paid in London, and a lot less as well. MP staffers are getting paid between 27 and 32k. It really shocked me that people were surprised to see that a job that requires living in London is a £35,000 salary. They were arguing, well, how on earth do you pay your rent? Your parents must be paying your rent. No, pal. No. People just spend 60 to 70% of their wages on their rent. That's what they do. Yeah.
I mean, look, London living wage, £13.85, which expressed as a salary is like 27 grand a year. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying that that's like a brilliant standard of living, but it's a standard of living. This is about the Navarra job, presumably. Yeah, but they were arguing as well. There were people saying that most graduates now start on at least £32,000. I tell you who does start on £32,000, a junior doctor, and that's a high-paying role. Yeah, look, it's industry by industry, isn't it? I mean, the pay in journalism is famously not great, particularly at entry level. I started in London on 18 grand. Yeah, I was about the same, just over actually. And I slept on a mate's sofa for the first month so that I could then use my first paycheck to put a deposit down on a flat. And it's like, how on earth is that? How on earth should that be the way that things like operate? You know, I chose to go into the industry. I chose to go into journalism. You know, people. The thing that my mates who used to be lifestyle journalists always said was like, the pay's terrible, but the perks are great because, you know, you're being sent like a free fucking PlayStation or whatever for review, or you get all someone sends you a ton of skincare stuff. I used to be a digital sub on the Sunday Times sports desk, and the digital team for sport on a Saturday night sat where the Sunday Times style team sat during the week. Wow. So like, I bet there was a lot of good shit there. I quite often sit at Pandora Sykes' desk, and you would just see like the wall of stuff that they are all being sent. I don't know if it's still the same now. I imagine probably to a lesser extent, but this is going on 10 years ago now. You know, there are some perks, right? You know, free tickets to things, etc. But how on earth are we saying that like it's acceptable to be paid that little going into an industry which we think actually is quite important? And I'm not just saying that because it's the industry I work in. You know, people who've paid any attention to the podcast and things I've said publicly before, I'm very much in favour of higher wages for it in a lot of areas. It's just, you know, I think that, you know, we're talking what, 8 that's 8 grand above the living wage. And look, I haven't looked at the Navarra job ad. I assume it's on reduced. That it's not. It's they have shorter working hours, don't they? They have some brilliant.
They do a 4-day week. Yeah.
Yeah, they have like brilliant employee benefits. Like I wouldn't.
I just thought the discourse was extraordinary. Because
so what were people saying?
No, what surprised me was that it was a lot of people who were arguing that is untenable to live on in London, and it surprised me because I was thinking, how much do you think everyone earns? They were arguing the average in London is 47k, and it's like, yeah, that's because there's all the bankers, financiers, and lawyers here that are dragging that average up. You know, that's.
I don't even know if it is 47. Let's bang it in Google. I don't know what the average London salary is off the top of my head. Woo!
What is it?
It's more. Although that's according to Plumplot.
Oh, I don't know. Careful about that.
Which I haven't heard of before.
But then you look at the city and what people are earning there, and they don't live in London either. They all commute back out. Anyway, it just surprised me.
For context, median gross annual earnings for full-time employees across the UK in April 2024 was 37 grand.
There you go. And that's including all the people who dragged that right up, you know?
Yeah. But this Plumplot thing saying it's 66k in London.
Don't be ridiculous.
I might believe it. I don't know. Look, now's not the time to jump into that.
I just thought it was a point of interest.
Yeah, it is. No, massively. It is, big time.
There was someone, one little point I wanted to make.
Yeah?
Someone was like, this makes it even more heinous that people do these sort of jobs for that little money. That, you know, some of the bile that gets spewed out. I'm like, what if you work for a think tank and you go on the BBC don't pay you, and they never pay you after that. If you've ever worked for a think tank, you are never eligible for a BBC fee. So these people go on the BBC to say things like privatise the NHS for free. They do it for free. They might have a backer, but on that segment, it's for free.
Yeah, I just, you know,
people might find that interesting.
As someone who hires journalists, 35 grand a year for that sort of seniority of position, 4 days a week in London. I think it's, you know, I'd say it's probably above market rate, to be honest with you.
Oh, you're getting more than you are from Reach titles. That's absolutely for sure of that. Should we do another clip?
Yeah, look, I just one more word on it, which is that I think if you want to argue that like the sort of like one of the few sort of genuine organisations that's run with left-wing principles in mind, do you think that as a member of staff that you're going to be getting a raw deal? Highly unlikely, I think. Highly unlikely. Yeah, are we going to do what we're going to do? Claire Hannah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Roll the clip.
Anyone who saw the 6-year-old girl fleeing the flaming shelter where her family were killed by an Israeli airstrike will carry those horrific images with them forever. These are very dark days, and Gaza is a stain on the soul of humanity, and it is a further shame that there is more moral clarity coming from Ms. Rachel on YouTube than there is from many world leaders who are complicit in silence. The Prime Minister said this week that Britain must be ready for war, and I ask, after tens of thousands of deaths, after a generation of Gazans stunted by hunger and trauma, when will it be ready for peace? When will it help to stop this genocide? When will it hold the Israeli government to account? And when will it recognise the state of Palestine?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to her for raising this, and she's absolutely right to describe this as dark days. And Israel's recent action is appalling and, in my view, counterproductive and intolerable. And we have strongly opposed the expansion of military operations and settler violence and the blocking of humanitarian aid. Mr. Speaker, you will have seen we've suspended the FTA talks and sanctioned extremists supporting violence in the West Bank. We will keep looking at further action along with our allies, including sanctions. But let me be absolutely clear. We need to get back to a ceasefire. We need the hostages who've been held for a very long time to be released. And we desperately need more aid at speed and at volume into Gaza because it's an appalling and intolerable situation.
That was a fucking question, wasn't it, Ava Santina?
Yeah.
That was like a really good... Her and Brendan O'Hara are both really good questions.
Hannah has
on Israel
continuously pitched herself as a very strong Chamber MP from the beginning because she's new. She's very interesting.
I loved that line that she had that was like, this week the Prime Minister said he's ready for war. When will he be ready for peace? It's like
strong.
That's good. That is like really strong rhetoric.
And of
It was
course,
brilliant public speaking. Like, it was really, really good.
this is ahead of Jeremy Corbyn's 10-minute rule bill, which will likely be selected later today, and MPs will have to vote on it, about a Chilcot-style inquiry into the components that are being sold, like the F-35s that are being sold, any of the arms, that sort of thing. The pressure is mounting. I think that this would be the wrong time for revisionism. I don't think we should be in a spot where we say, where were these MPs then? Where were these MPs there? Da, da, da. I think now is the time that you can really mount pressure on the Labour leader to say, we are witnessing on camera, with our very eyes, one of the most... I actually have no words for it. I have no words. But this is the time to put pressure on your local MP and say, it's time to stop this.
I was thinking about like the aid question last night. Do you remember the Berlin airlift? Well, you wouldn't remember it. Neither of us were alive.
The Berlin airlift.
Yeah, Cold War, Soviet Union surrounds Berlin. West Berlin gets put under blockade, and so we, as in sort of America, us, fly supplies over Berlin and parachute them into Berlin to keep the population alive, right?
Okay.
And I was thinking, in like the era of doing things, that was what happened. You go, well, very, very good. Let's deploy the RAF and let's drop thousands of tons of aid into Berlin, and it won't be great, but they'll be all right. Over the course of this conflict, the RAF has been flying sorties above Gaza for hours at a time, and the speculation, we don't know the purpose of the flights because the MOD and the government won't comment on them, but you can see the flight data. Declassified UK has done a lot of reporting on this. And the suspicion, belief, pretty well founded, is that they're intelligence flights that are being fed back to the Israelis. If we're flying, and the type of aircraft that get used for that, C-130s, they're transport aircraft. So in theory, those same planes, if we really cared about getting aid into Gaza, could fly over Gaza and drop aid into it, but we're not. And I think it's like back then in history, that's when we actually did things. If there was a blockade, all right, fine, well, we'll just airdrop, suck out Stalin, deal with it. But I do think it demonstrates the hollowness of the conviction when it's like, it's Starmer's line on it. And it's actually funny that I can't remember what it is, because he essentially said the same thing 5 or 6 times in the chamber today. He has his answer on Israel Palestine, and he goes to it every single time and he reads it out verbatim. Essentially, it's like it's intolerable what's happening. We're putting sanctions on extremists advocating for violence in the West Bank. We're exploring all possible avenues, etc. If you really cared about humanitarian aid, you could just airdrop it into Gaza, couldn't you?
Who is governing that airspace?
The Israelis.
So that's probably why.
But this is what I'm saying. It's like our RAF planes are already entering the airspace, right?
Yeah, but if they were entering with aid, do you think that maybe Israel might have something to say about that?
No, I don't think they would get in.
Oh, you're gathering intelligence for us. Okay, absolutely, fly. Oh, you're dropping aid.
Yeah. I don't think
it's like doing the school run.
Yeah, but if it came down to it, I don't think... Are we seriously suggesting that, like, the Israelis would shoot down an RAF plane headed towards Gaza? There's no way that happens. We wouldn't do it for diplomatic reasons, is what I'm getting at. But I'm just saying, in the past when we've gone, there's a blockade on this small area of land, West Berlin. Oh, that's fine, we can still get in. And we'll front them out because we don't believe that the Soviets are going to shoot down our planes. Is that not the moral thing to do?
I think there are many moral things that could have been done.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
The position is untenable, isn't it?
That's what I was just thinking as I was saying that, yeah. I did enjoy in Claire Hannah that she Miss Rachel like a children's YouTuber.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, children's YouTuber. You and I have both mentioned Ehud Barak writing in the FT, former Prime Minister of Israel. they're more condemnatory than you are, Keir Starmer. You got the two extremes. Like, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's sustainable. I think it will give at some point. They're getting there. I think they're getting there.
There's something rather comical about Miss Rachel in her very sweet voice that is used to talk to children, discussing about Palestinian children dying. Some of the commentary on social media, or actually even comment pieces in in the UK's publications about her, extraordinary. Because she's like, I would like to save all of the children. They're like, can you believe?
Anti-Semites!
Yeah, it's mental. Insane.
Oh, fuck. Will we do one more? Will we do Ed Davey?
How long have we been going? Okay.
Look, I think we should give Ed Davey a little bit of lip service. I think we should give Lib Dem MP a bit of lip service.
That reminds me, do you remember, you know what I'm talking about, the Boris Johnson, and is it Ian Lavery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take that back, old boy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few clips like that. There's Alistair Campbell and Adam Bolton on College Green after the 2010 general election when when the coalition negotiations are all happening, like who's going to go into government with who. And that is it with Adam? Yeah, it is. It's Campbell and Bolton like going at each other and getting like really riled up. That's another one. It's not quite the same caliber, but then there's like the Prescott, Ian Dale, like altercations with voters. But I enjoy the like two pundits who fucking hate each other. Like
on Politics Live, was it Will Hutton and Mark Francois?
Will Self,
sorry. Will Self. That is so
That's
good.
iconic one when they're just like staring at each other.
Yeah.
Oh, man, Brexit did some shit to us.
It's so good. I mean, it's extraordinary. Mark Francois is a project. Like he's
Or like a fixer-upper.
You know, what are you doing, man? Like, do you remember when he called this press conference? You sent me to it, actually. The 5 families or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
He made all the journalists bend down in front of him.
Yeah.
So weird. It was like, oh, should I kneel here, sir? Oh, want me to make you look a bit taller, do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is outrageous.
That's not a bad impression, you know.
Thank you.
He was the guy, he was talking about getting a statue of Dame Vera Lynn, wasn't he, the other day at PMQs?
Shut
Yeah.
up.
I think you might have been on holiday. Yeah.
Shut
Yeah, I think there's a statue, maybe in Dover.
A statue of Vera Lynn?
Yeah, it was a real like World War II. Again, this is like politics of 10 years ago.
We'll meet again.
well,
We're back here again.
More than 100 years. Yeah, more than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Look, tariffs, Ed Davis. Let's have the clip. We'll
They
keep it
are
brief.
White Cliffs of Dover, I'll have you know.
Let's roll the clip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I start by welcoming reports that the Chancellor will give winter fuel payments to more pensioners this winter? Though, because we still wait the details, we will reserve our full judgment. But, Mr. Speaker, can I recognise the efforts of the Prime Minister to pull out all the stops to avoid President Trump's damaging tariffs? A letter from the King offering to water down online safety laws, even trying to send the Open to one of Trump's golf courses. The Prime Minister thought he'd secured 0% tariffs for British steel, but now Trump is threatening us with 50% unless we comply with his new 5-week deadline. Mr. Speaker, this is classic Trump, changing the terms of the deal he had already agreed. Does the Prime Minister share my fear that nothing will stop Trump messing the UK around, short of bunging a few £100 million into his Trump coin?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have a deal, we're implementing it, and within a very short time, I'm very confident we will get those tariffs down in accordance with the deal. And I'll come back to him and update the House in due course. And I think the House will be very pleased at the outcome of that. But because of the approach... No, wait. This is 0 tariffs on steel. And he says, no, they wouldn't. Let's come back to this in just a couple of weeks when we've implemented it. But they obviously don't want this. We back steel, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House. they laugh at attempts to backsteal on their side of the house, and that's a big part of the problem.
Okay, tariffs. These are fair points. These are fair points from the Lib Dems. They're fair points from Kemi. She also raised it.
I wanted to do this clip because I was interested in how Davey had identified that Starmer was willing to water down the online safety bill. I think this cannot be lamented enough. This cannot, we cannot ignore this. Ignoring all of the tariffs, ignoring all of the guff, JD Vance was in the Oval Office and he was condemning Starmer for the online safety bill because it would hurt the pockets of American business people. Think about that. We are not implementing checks and balances in the UK, or potentially not, that have children have killed themselves. Children have killed themselves from content that they have seen on algorithms that have thrown bile at them day after day after day, and they have taken their own lives. And we're not going to do anything about that because JD Vance doesn't want American business people to be hurt in the pocket. That's insane.
Yeah, and I think this is, again, I tried to ask Bernie about this. He didn't really commit to it. He said that the world leaders should stand up to Trump, and that this is not a time for kind of like cutting deals. Because you have a pretty clear contrast, right? You can look at Canada and the UK and the contrasting manner in which their leaders have dealt with Trump. And in Canada, it's been very much like we'll meet this head on. We're not backing down, and we have been deferential. Here is a letter from the King, Mr. President.
Oh, would you like a little tour of the palace, Mr. President?
Can I kiss your hand, Mr. President?
Oh, you're going to meet Camilla. We'll subsume Diana if you want to meet her. Exhume, sorry, subsume.
I have subsumed the spirit of Diana. I am complete. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. President, kiss the ring.
I'd love to, yeah. Anyway, so we're one of the only people, and we were the first, right, to strike a deal with him and the Americans. Has it been to our benefit? Yes, because it's reduced the tariffs on us. Is it...
And saved thousands of jobs, actually.
Is it a good deal for us? Open question. And I think that's the
I don't
the
think
debate
that's our
happening
fault,
here.
though, necessarily.
No, it's like...
But the online safety bill should have been like a...
He is who he is, right?
Yeah.
And I guess this is part of the problem, right? But this is the point that Bernie made, was like, he challenged the assertion. I was like, we've reduced tariffs and British steel is protected. And I can't remember. I'm pretty sure he just deadpans me and goes, "Have you?"
Yeah.
Because it's like he might change his mind.
Well, he did. That's what we're talking about. He's moved the parameters, moved the goalposts again.
Exactly. And so it's like, well, if you sell your soul to do a deal with this man that isn't worth the paper that it's written on, why not keep your principles?
Catherine Levitt, of course, overnight, the White House press secretary, going ballistic that the BBC had the gall to report on what's going on in Gaza.
Shocking stuff.
Good for her.
know.
Stunning and brave.
Yeah.
Right, should we wrap it up there?
I think so, mate.
Nice one.
Bye-bye.
It's been great being here.
Yeah, it has. A pleasure. We're doing this all the time now, you and me.
Yeah. Bye.